It's 5:08, and we'll go ahead and start with this board workshop. We'll start with the first reading of revision to policy FDA local admissions inter-district transfers.
Last week, we presented for your consideration, the policy statement that had to do with participation of students in UIL activities who are not enrolled in our schools. Along related lines, we've also been working to clarify the policy statement about inter-district transfers. Several questions have come up from staff from time to time, and so we are bringing this policy for discussion, review, and to try to get a sense of direction from this board, because as community representatives, you will be out there and members of the community will be speaking with you. So we want to open the discussion. We do not expect action tonight, but we would like to gain some direction, because even now enrollment continues, enrollment of students new to the district. And so I will ask Mr. Sergio Garcia, to come up and present to you that which we have been reviewing and which we are proposing for your consideration. We may add, delete, edit in any way that you direct us.
Thank you, Dr. Leo. Also, just to make an additional note of what we're doing here, last week we opened the floor. We opened up a discussion, and we put this in a workshop to encourage local participation from those that were concerned in the community that there was some, that there were some concerns with respect to the way we were handling enrollment and extracurricular activities and summer programs that are sponsored by the school district and that are not necessarily funded by students who participate as far as average daily attendance. So this is the continuation of that. I believe this is the second part of it. So again, it's in a workshop setting. It's replacing a first reading on a normal agenda, as we normally would, again, to encourage public participation. So we'll open the floor here in a little bit, but first we'll let Mr. Garcia make his presentation. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Dr. Leo, Mr. Fuentes, members of the board, we are bringing this policy for your discussion because of concerns that have been brought to us. As you know, we're not an open district, but we do have some policies in place or that allows for students to come into our district. In this policy, in the FDA local policy for inter-district transfers, you're going to see that there's one stipulation there for former resident, which reads that a non-resident student who has attended one of the district schools for a minimum of 1 year prior to becoming a non-resident may be permitted to attend a district school. With this in mind, what happens when the younger siblings of these students, let's say a pre-K student who wants to come into our district, are they allowed to come into the district? What's been brought to my office from parents that already have students in our district who were former students and who wish to continue being our school district, they don't want to split up their kids. They don't want to send their children to the school district where they reside. So they asked that if we could please look into this to allow for us to consider allowing their children to come to our district. This is why we're bringing this to your attention and for your consideration. So after consulting with TASB, the information that we would like to include, we added the sibling section right there in blue, and it reads, the sibling of a non-resident student meeting the former resident exception above may be permitted to attend a district school. That would be the change that we are proposing.
So let's clarify this. The former resident student is somebody that we're allowing to come back or to participate or be in our district to attend school here.
Correct.
Even though they have moved out of the zone?
Yes, sir.
For Weslaco ISD?
Correct.
Okay, so The titling should, or the title of this addition, should it be former or siblings of former residents, or does, I mean, just when we talk about siblings, we're talking about just brothers and sisters. We're not necessarily designating them as part of the former residents.
Yes, thank you. We could go ahead and contact TASB and make that.
Have you spoken to them about that additional wording? Did you have any discussion with TASB already about that?
I went ahead and sent the information, the wording myself, and then this is the revision that was sent back to us. But I'm sure that if we recommend, as Mr. Fuentes was saying, to read that subtitle, to read siblings of former residents exception or something like that, I'm sure that I could get some information from them on that.
Is that the only thing that we're changing or adding?
That was the only thing we're adding, yes, sir.
So to clear this up a little bit, if a family has a child that was attending the school here, and they're seniors, and they have an incoming kindergartner to a different district, since the senior went through our district, the kindergartner that never stepped on our school, and any other child after that are also grandfathered in?
No, I believe what we're trying to do is, if a student graduates, let's say he's a senior and he's gone, then we have no, I guess this would be for children that would still be coming to the district. Let's say if it's a fifth grader and they have a sibling who would like to come to our district because the parents are saying, well, we could place them in our zone school district, but the problem is that now I'm going to have to, as far as transportation is concerned, I'm going to have to be, sending a student over here to Weslaco, taking one student to Weslaco, and then take the other one over here to Donna, Mercedes, whatever the case may be.
But again, I think we're trying to encourage,
Yeah.
our enrollment going up, so.
I think take real close attention to the wording and clarify it, because it's going to get real confusing.
Okay.
And I know that it's going to come back to us to approve it, so make sure that you cover all the, if the child is here, done, once he graduates, that's it, and things of that nature.
I see. I understand. So maybe consider adding some type of language that states that for siblings of students who are currently in the system,
enrolled.
Yeah.
in our school system.
Because we still have the open enrollment where if they meet the criteria, they can enroll here, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Leo?
Well, it's not a completely an open enrollment district, but there are some.
Some criteria they have to meet, the three criteria.
Right.
Right. Well, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
For example, someone who works within the district or the city limits, and then there's some criteria for that, they're
Right.
allowed to come to the district. So-
May I ask too for clarification? This entire policy statement, FDA, references students who are non-residents.
Correct.
And then it spells out the different conditions under which they may be attending schools. So what we are proposing to add is a section on siblings of non-residents.
Correct.
Oh, okay, so now.
So
okay,
would
now
that
the
not cover all of those exceptions?
Right.
So the only thing
yes,
you're
it would.
proposing is what's in blue?
Yeah,
Sir?
and so
The
that's,
additional.
that
Just the
statement
addition.
reads, the sibling of a non-resident student. So I don't know if we need to add the sibling of a non-resident student currently enrolled and meeting the former resident exception.
I think the word former resident just throws it off.
I think so, Mr. Garcia.
Okay.
So we may delete former resident, and because it is in because it is in FDA local, it should be understood that this refers to siblings of non-residents who have been exempted under one of these conditions,
Okay.
I think.
I'll go ahead and take your recommendations and include them, and then go ahead and send it to TASB for further review.
Thank you. And just a point of clarification, I was reading through the rest of this. It's not in blue, and it's not necessarily part of the policy, is tuition. At what point does the district decide to charge tuition? I mean, and maybe it's not an answer you have right now, but
Correct.
we're
I think
talking
if-
about non-residents, we're talking about bringing kids in. We've made exceptions for people who work within
Right.
Weslaco. At what point do we charge tuition?
At
Just-
one time, if they didn't meet the criteria and they wanted to come to Weslaco, then we would charge them tuition. An example, if they lived in Dana and they wanted to attend Weslaco schools, but they didn't meet the criteria to come over here, then we would charge them tuition as long as they came to Weslaco.
And do you
And I
know what-
believe that is still the case, Mr. Fuentes, and I believe we do have, very few, but we do have some students who are charged tuition to come to Weslaco schools.
And what's the charge?
I would have to look into that.
It actually increased.
No,
Yeah.
we have kept it the same. I believe it's $1,000 per year.
Right, it used to be like 500, and
Yeah.
in
Per semester.
11 or 12, it increased to $1,000 a semester.
A
So
semester?
I think that's what it was.
It's still
1,000
lower,
for the year.
it's
500
still
per
lower
semester.
than a lot of other
What
districts.
was it?
Low,
1,000 for the year, I believe.
Oh, for the year.
Which is 500 per semester.
Okay,
very,
that's doable.
Well, that doesn't have to be disclosed anywhere. Is that somewhere in policy? The $1,000 fee?
the amount?
Do you have a schedule, anything like
I
that?
don't
check on
think
that.
it's in policy.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let me ask one question here. So a student that's here and attending Weslaco schools, and they move to Dana, now they're not residents, how long can they attend before they have to meet the criteria? One semester or the whole year?
No, my understanding, if I read this correctly, is that at any time, if they've been a student in Weslaco, they can come back at any time and
Okay.
until they graduate.
Okay.
But specifically in answer
Prior
to
to the
that
policy,
question,
Yes,
the
that's what I-
second statement, exception,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
they may be permitted to continue for the remainder of the semester. And then I assume they would have to reapply for
That's what I was
consideration.
asking, correct.
Right.
Andres, hold on.
Okay.
Quick question, and $1,000 for the year. What do we get in 88 per student for the year?
About 7,500.
But we still get that.
But we still get the 88 if they
Okay,
come.
well, what I'm saying is, today, because due to a really bad accident on the expressway, I had to come down Business 83 from McAllen. And one of our neighboring districts has a big old sign bigger than this wall that says, "Bring your child. It's free." And I know at one of the meetings, about a month ago, I think I asked
Yes, we did.
why we charge, the 500 per semester if we're still collecting on the 88, which at the end of the day is what's important for us. So I, again, would really like to consider maybe doing away with the,
Sounds like a different workshop.
Then we would need another policy statement, come back,
okay.
because
Again,
they're
take a look at it. I'm saying is,
declaring
the
the
goal is to
district to be
increase enrollment.
an open enrollment district.
Yes.
Check to see who's got, many of the districts have already.
I
instituted.
have been corrected. It's $2,500. I don't usually deal with this. That's
Yeah,
why I
'cause it
was
was-
confused.
What, the
2,500 for the year.
tuition?
Yeah.
25
The
for the year?
tuition?
For the year.
Yeah, because I knew it was about 1,000 per semester.
Okay.
Because I had a couple of students that would have to pay that.
Well, that was set some time ago and under different
It's been-
circumstances.
it's been-
We may want to
It
reconsider.
hasn't been
Right,
changed.
I agree.
However, are you wanting us to look at and bring back a possible policy statement declaring the district to be an open enrollment district? Because with that, we would not we would not charge tuition. Or do you want to leave things as they are?
I'll sit with them and I'll visit with them on an individual basis and
All right.
let me get with them first before we do any of that stuff.
All right.
All righty?
Okay. So I'll go ahead and continue to work on the policy and consult with TASB and bring it back for review.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gus.
Anybody in the community would like to voice their opinion on this particular item on the board workshop? Okay, moving on. Are we doing the presentations first, Andres, or are we going to be doing the budget first? Presentations, all right. Did we give a time limit on that? These are accountants, man. I can't be that exciting. I'm an accountant, man. I'm just joking, just joking.
Oh, auto services.
Okay. Oscar's not here, but I'll put a timer on. That's cool. Well, we'll just let it go. We'll see what the time is. All right, do we have Mr. Garza? Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Garza. It's outside.
Come on in, Noel. Noel Garza, CPA. So the agenda item reads, presentations by independent auditing firms that submitted qualification statements to conduct the independent fiscal and compliance audit of the district for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2016. Mr. Garza, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Good to see you, Dr. Leo,
Likewise.
as well, members of the board. It's good to see you all again. As Mr. Fuentes mentioned, my name is Noel Garza. I'm the principal of Noel Garza CPA PC. Formerly, I'm a solo practitioner now with over 14 years audit experience, having worked on primarily governmental audits, mainly because prior to working in the public sector, I was worked in a school district setting in a couple of capacities, chief accountant and director of finance for pretty close to 14 years. And since then, I've worked in the public sector, focusing on audits, mostly of governmental, because of that experience that I feel provides us an invaluable tools to understand controls and the operations of local education agencies. And so I've primarily focused on that. I am now a sole practitioner. One thing that I do have on staff, 2 additional CPAs that have worked with me over the last 8 years, one over 8 years and the other approximately 6 years, that will assist in the audit. So, and then they've been trained, under my guidance, and so they also bring additional knowledge, and of course, having being a CPA provides them, a little bit more understanding of the governmental controls and operations. And so that I feel is a great an advantage to have. Additionally, because we are all CPAs, we're required to have continuing education hours on the magnitude of 80 hours because we do governmental audits every 2 years. So that allows us to stay abreast of all the governmental requirements in auditing, and from the local education agency as well as the federal compliance and governmental accounting standards boards requirements. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that the methodology that we use in the audit is one of a collaborative audit process rather than an adversarial one. I find it works better if we work, because this is an audit, this is the district's audit, and our job is to provide an opinion on those financial statements as a result of the audit work. But it is the financial statements of the district, and so we find it to be very helpful to work as a team to conduct the audit and have the audit completed. Now, we do follow our guidelines and maintain our independence and make sure that all the protocols and procedures and requirements from the state and federal are adhered to. But in working collaboratively, we feel it's much more effective, and we don't have this animosity that's created between the staff and my staff and the district staff, and it just proves to be more effective in completing the audit timely. And I also take pride in that we've always managed to get the audit done timely in early December. I have been the lead auditor on this audit for the last several years, and always managed to, of course, with a great assistance from your staff, complete the audit timely and much earlier than what the state requires. So by having this method of collaboration, it allows us also to understand the controls, and because of our experience, understand the controls that are in place, and and evaluate whether they're operating effectively to be able to ensure that the district is following guidelines and rules and requirements. One thing that we do offer in the audit process also is suggestions to try to improve controls If we notice there's items that could be improved, we'll bring it to the staff's attention, or if it's significant enough, it comes to your attention, whether it be through a management letter comment, or if it's, turns out to be something that was contrary to state or local guidelines, it could result in a finding. But that's if it was severe enough to warrant that. But typically, we do try to work with the staff to look for any opportunity to improve controls and make the operation run that much more effectively. Now, the experience we bring to the table is having worked with the districts through up and down the valley. I've personally worked on as a lead auditor within 6 different school districts, and so I've seen quite a few different operations and methods of operations and the staffing, and again, that also provides some good understanding of the systems and allows us to better evaluate the district and its functions. Ultimately, again, in order to provide that opinion and feel comfortable with that opinion on those financial statements, ultimately to make sure that the district, the financial statements are fairly stated and that we feel comfortable with their operations and compliance as it relates to the requirements from the Texas Education Agency. That's really all I had to offer at this point. I'm certainly open to any questions or elaboration if you may.
How many of those districts that you work for
Yes, sir.
are comparable to our size, or 6A districts? You don't have to name, just out of those 6, how many are 6A districts?
I would say 3 out of the 6 were 6A, and the others would have been 5As.
In the past, how many, inclusive of yourself, how many other staff members did you have? Or I'm guessing, how many total, including yourself,
That would work on the audit?
worked on your
Typically,
audit?
it was 2, myself and a staff member that would conduct the audit. And if we needed to, I had another staff available to bring, but typically, we worked efficiently enough where it was always myself and one of my staff members.
Because of the timing of the audit, and just about all the other school districts, I'm sure, have the same time requirements
Yes,
and
sir.
time deadlines, do you find that you will have an issue with respect to completing the audit with other districts?
No, it hasn't been an issue in the past, Mr. Fuentes. I've worked on 3 audits at one time during the fall. They don't all come at the same time. Your district is always is the first one that I always work on and complete, and then the other 2 that I've worked on for the last several years follow up. So I'm able to complete yours as I'm just getting started on the others, and so it hasn't, to this point, has not caused any time conflicts or restrictions. We try to start early so that we can avoid issues. Mr. Fuentes, in the summer, we'll try to work on compliance, on the federal compliance, testing of accounts payable and payroll, those things that can be done prior to the books being closed, so that way in the fall, if we have to do any subsequent testing, but then we can also focus on that point on the financial statements and not have that additional time that we need to devote during the summer.
Your staff that you have, are they from your previous?
Yes, sir. Both of them were from a previous firm, yes.
So
Both
you'll have
CPAs.
some continuity on
Absolutely.
the job?
Very, yes, they both have worked on this audit in the past, and so they're very familiar with the operations.
Andres, are we talking about fees at all?
No.
No, so we're only talking about the qualifications. We don't have an agenda item on this tonight, right?
No.
So, okay.
And normally your audit takes how long, would you say?
Typically, 6 weeks. We start in mid-October. On the financial statements, typically the staff has targeted October 15th as the date to hand over their trial balance. And we always wrap it up Thanksgiving weekend, present the report the first week of December. So, you're looking at 6 weeks total, not including the summer. In the summer,
Right.
there could be additional on and off 2 to 3 weeks of testing that would occur. So in 2 months probably would be a fair estimate.
No, well, typically you guys, or the procedure itself is you guys issue an opinion.
Yes, sir.
It's submitted. We have it open, transparent disclosure of that.
Absolutely.
And then we submit it to TEA.
Correct.
Has TEA ever given you a follow-up where they have had findings or some concerns with respect to the audit? Have there ever been any issues with respect to your audits? And
No,
any additional findings that were reported to you that
No, sir.
you guys didn't find during the audit?
No, never has occurred. The only, when we do get the district receives a letter from TEA, they may ask for follow-up on the findings, if there was a finding, additional clarification from the district and or as to what it was or where it stands and what the corrective action is to take place. But we've never had an item come back that something that we didn't identify during the audit process.
And just to make it out there, put it out there,
Absolutely.
No reportings of incidents with respect to ethics in the
No, sir,
Texas Association
never.
Certified Public Accountants?
No, sir. We try to, we work really hard to stay independent and maintain our integrity so that we don't have any issues arise.
How long have you done our books?
I've done the audit, Mr. Lopez, probably I can say the last 5 years, for sure. And there was a time period, there was a year or so before that we didn't do it, and then in the past, we had done it. There was another 4 or 5 years prior to that.
I know, I've been here since '07, and I think you were already here.
Yes, sir.
Or shortly thereafter.
Yes, sir.
And all our reports and all our audits have come back good. We've had good ratings from TEA. And Andres, if you want to add anything to this, I just want to know where we stand with Mr. Garza. Are you satisfied? Are we doing good? Are we okay?
No, we haven't had any problems.
I know we have
with the
not. I
auditor.
just want, the new, some members are new. I don't think Isidoro or Andrew were here for the past years, and I know that we have had no issues.
No,
and
we haven't.
everything is-
We have worked well with them. They ask for the information, we provide it, try to provide it by the time they need it. They have questions, we answer them, that we provide the conference room so they can work in there and provide what they need. They
Okay.
ask for information, we pull it out and give it to them.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Garza, during those 5 years, was there certain times that you had certain recommendations and you presented it to the board, and then, of course, they followed up on those recommendations?
Yes, sir. There have been, Mr. Nieto, there were, and I couldn't quote the years, but
Right,
there
right.
were a couple of years where we did have to have a finding, whether there was something we identified during the audit process that we felt was not compliant.
Okay.
And so and they were significant enough where they had to be presented as a finding to you all, but they were rectified immediately. As soon as they were identified, the staff were, they were never an issue after that, once they were identified and corrected.
Okay,
You would have an issue if you had 2 years
right, back to back.
consistent,
Absolutely.
where the findings were the same, and at least for the time that I've been here in my 6 years, I haven't seen that happen. I do remember there were 2 findings one particular year, and they both went away the next year, because that's
Okay.
what I was
Absolutely.
looking for, but
The staff works really hard to correct anything that's been identified. Obviously, they want to make sure they're compliant as well.
Okay.
cool.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Well, Mr. Garza, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
We
you. Thank
appreciate
you for
it.
the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Mr. Garza.
Thank you. Likewise.
Mr. Garza and I used to work together at La Jolla before either one of us had white hair.
And I
to
had
see
a
you,
little
sir.
bit more back then, too. Yes, Dr. Leo and I go back a long ways.
Yes, sir.
Very-
Good to see
Very
you.
good to see you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Garza. Andres,
found
would you
the
like
white
to
hair, too.
call Mr. Basaldua in?
I found out white hairs too. But I didn't work in La Jolla.
That was training ground.
Back in the day. I think it was your iPad.
Did Whitley Penn come? No? So, the third firm, Whitley Penn from Houston, Texas, while they submitted an RFQ, were they notified?
Yes, send them an email after.
Okay, so for whatever reason, if you could follow up and just see if they're still interested. From the firm of Patillo, Brown and Hill in Brownsville, Texas, we have Mr. Pablo Basaldua,
Correct.
the third.
Yes.
All right, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Board President, Superintendent, members of the board. Again, my name is Paulo Basaldua, and with me is Associate John Carrejo, and we're here to give you a brief presentation regarding our RFQ for audit services. Our office is one of 5. We have 5 additional offices in Texas, with 1 in Albuquerque, our main office being in Waco. We are a regional firm. It is considered an affiliate office, so pretty much what the Brownsville office does is it handles all the engagements within the Rio Grande Valley all the way up through Laredo. And then, of course, the other affiliate offices handle the different engagements throughout the state of Texas. And of course, with the one in Albuquerque handling the business in New Mexico. There is a total of 12 partners within the firm. There is one managing partner or engagement partner out of Waco, which is Mr. Cascos. And of course, there's a manager and additional 13 other associates. In total, the Brownsville office has about 15 total employees. And then, of course, the other offices being the additional 11 partners with 5 additional managers and about 80 additional personnel for a total of about 120. Overall, the firm has been around since 1923, so it's been over 90 plus years that the firm has been in existence. Of course, the firm does offer different types of services in regards to just auditing, 401k, write-up, and things like that, consulting. The firm down here in Brownsville primarily handles a lot of audit. You know, we do handle 11 additional school districts that we audit here in Brownsville, out of the Brownsville office, with one service center, which is Region 1. And that just includes, you know, the current active engagements within the past 2 years. There have been an additional maybe 5 or 10 school districts that we have done and lost, you know, throughout the process. And of course, the Waco office handling maybe about additional 20, you know, school districts with about 2 to 3 different service centers. So overall auditing, as far as school district experience, we do have, you know, and our office is able also to interchange, you know, should we need additional personnel, you know, we do provide that personnel to them and so on and so forth. If we need the help, they do provide and they do travel down as well. We do have annual training in order to keep up with the different types of you know, requirements and different types of changes that happen within the actual process and the different changes within school districts. The training is considered firm-wide. You know, once a year, the firm gets together as a whole, all the different employees within their different departments to conduct that actual training in total to ensure that we're in compliance with that. We are independent to the school district as a whole, and the most recent peer review is currently being conducted. And what that means is in essence another firm, an external independent firm comes and conducts an actual review of our work papers to ensure that we're in compliance. The last review was done in 2013 and we received no letter of comments. You know, it was an unmodified opinion. And of course, the most recent one is being done right now in 2016.
Let's see.
The firm, again, we are more of a hands-on approach. You know, should, you know, the district decide to hire us, you know, the first thing that would happen is we would want to set up some type of timeline. You know, we are all about trying to come in and determine a risk assessment, an audit plan, and do something as soon as possible within the summer, you know, which is in these summer months. And then shortly, soon after that, it's about establishing a timeline for the upcoming audit, you know, in regards to coming in as soon as possible. You know, the board meeting, you know, what is the actual target? Are we meeting a November or December deadline? You know, and then to go from there, go backwards to ensure that, you know, both parties are on the same page, you know, because it's a matter of, you know, trying to determine overall, you know, once we get to know the district and know what it is the district has in regards to the different types of funding and the different types of, you know, areas to determine the risk assessment, it's about trying to figure out how much time we would need for field work to be conducted. You know, the team could vary with, of course, a partner and a manager, but then there'd be an in-charge who would be here on a day-to-day basis, and that in-charge would have 2 to 3 additional staff, because it would all be based on, you know, the size of your budget, of course, and different areas that need to be audited and looked into. You know, there are questionnaires that are sent out in regards for fraud, you know, to the different employees for any type, again, to determine the risk assessment overall and the different procedures that come into play. So at the end of the day, it just really comes down to, can I tell you that we're going to be here for, you know, 1 week for the summer, a week and a half? Yes. And then what are we going to do for the actual field work? It could vary because it's going to be based, you know, strictly on what different areas we would need to look at. You know, at any point in time, should something come up that requires additional work or anything of that nature, that would be discussed with, you know, with management first beforehand. It's not going to be one of those things to where, you know, oh, we did all this additional work and here's an additional invoice. You know, our fee regarding the RFQ or anything like that is what it is, you know, once the engagement letter is signed. And then shortly after that, in regards to anything as far as additional work or anything that may come up, it's discussed beforehand before anything is done. Ultimately, what matters to us is being able to meet your timeline and ensuring that we can provide, you know, that unmodified opinion, you know, that clean report, because really that's what matters, you know, to us, to make sure that we have the necessary supporting documentation to be able to have a basis for our opinion. And that's pretty much it. I mean, again, overall, what matters to us really is just making sure that both parties are on the same page so that we can make sure that there's no surprises at the end and that that management or the business office has enough time to review a draft so that, once it comes before you, it's pretty much final and, presented cleanly. Are there any questions?
Your home office is where?
Our office locally is in Brownsville.
And your home?
Brownsville.
Your home office?
Oh, the main office is in Waco.
Waco.
Yes, Waco is the one that has the main office, and that one has about 80 personnel overall, and that's the one that houses, I believe, about 8 partners.
How many partners do you have in Brownsville?
In Brownsville, there's only one partner.
And who is that?
Mr. Carlos Cascos. The Brownsville office has been in existence since 1996. That's when they initially opened up, because they generated so much business, I guess, the firm overall, that they just felt it was a little bit more feasible to partner up with, Mr. Cascos, who already had an accounting firm, and then that's how this firm opened up. As I had said earlier, we ended up doing so much school districts in so many different cities and counties down here locally that it was just more feasible for this firm to kind of just open up a branch down here.
On your, here it's listed that you have out of the 26 school districts?
Right.
How many are your bigger school districts compared to our size here in the valley?
Locally, the bigger ones that they would compare would be really the Brownsville, Laredo, United, and the Service Center. Those are really the bigger ones with that bigger size budget. We do have some smaller ones, like Port Isabel, Los Fresnos, Raymondville, but really the bigger ones in comparison to y'all would probably be the United and Laredo.
Okay.
Our different personnel, does allow us, the flexibility within our schedule to kind of have because what matters to us is being able to have the 3-man teams, the 2 to 3 people necessary for the different engagements. So that's why it's always really important for us to just plan it accordingly so that we can put you within our calendar so we can come in and do the engagement, with the necessary personnel instead of just extending it. I had a brief conversation with Mr. Garcia, and that's what I was trying to relate to him. As soon as the district is ready, we're ready, because it's a matter of going and spending the 2 to 3 weeks that we need to, or 3 to 4, so that we can do our procedures and leave. We don't want to extend this any longer. The sooner you get your draft, the sooner there's an agreement from both parties that the financials are financially sound and it's a clean report, the better for everybody. And that's really ultimately what we want.
Okay.
Very good. Anybody else? Well, Pablo, thank you so much for coming. We really
No.
appreciate your time.
Thank you for your time.
For being here. We really appreciate it.
If there's anything else, feel free to let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pablo.
We only have 2 today, right?
So Andres Whitley Penn is not presenting today, correct? Anything you'd like to add?
No? We'll bring it up, the agenda item at the July board meeting.
On
We'll
the-
bring you a ranking sheet,
That's who that is, right?
the July meeting,
Did you actually do an RFP on this?
RFQ.
RFQ, but they submitted a fee schedule?
No, we did not ask for the fees, because we've done on and off in the past, with the fee, without the fee. So I checked with the attorney, so let's go without the fee this time. So we did not ask for it.
So you will be asking for them before you come in July?
No, I wasn't gonna ask for them, but I can try. Usually, like on the architects and engineers, CPA fees, services is a professional service, and sometimes it's in like the architect that you don't ask for fees. But CPAs have submitted them with price and without price, and if you want me to, I can ask for it. I didn't. I requested as a request for qualifications, for just based on qualifications, but then makes a subject like to what are we gonna pay?
What have we done in the past?
Lately, we've been doing requests for proposals
Okay.
with the price.
With the price, because I remember seeing that the price is.
Yes, we did have it.
And the
Right.
price makes,
Oh, yeah.
a difference. Of course, if they're low.
I can
you-
ask them for the price. I don't think there'll be a problem in them providing it, because both of them provided prices before.
Do we have to RFP that, or can you call and ask, since they already did an RFQ?
If they're willing to do so voluntarily, the other thing you could do is you could base your recommendation on the qualifications that have been submitted, and then you can always make your final motion and approval subject to contract negotiations. And if you feel that the the fees at that time when you're negotiating are unreasonable, then you can go back.
We would just be risking the timing of it, because you guys would, start in September?
Well, we'll have to start sometime in the summer,
Right.
probably till August. By the time we hire them in July, we leave in 2-3 days to start in August.
I'd like to see the fees.
Okay, no problem.
You know, you have some out-of-town firms,
Yeah, I agree.
that's gonna change, that's gonna make a difference in the pricing. I'd like to see it with fees. If that's legal, if that's possible, then I'd like to see it with fees.
If they're willing to cooperate, then I don't see a
Sure,
problem with that.
okay.
Okay. All right. Next item, proposed budget for fiscal year 2016, 2017. Now, if you leave, because you're planning on leaving, right?
Let's start our meeting right at 6.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
We might not have a quorum, so we'd like to get through this
5
quickly.
minutes, okay. Dr. Leo, Mr. Fuentes, other members of the board, this is the first presentation on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2016, 2017. You will have your copy of the presentation there. The budget is based on, it's on the preliminary stages. We have not finished all the calculations on payroll. We have some preliminary numbers for pay raises. I'll discuss that while we're looking at a couple of slides later on. We'll have better figures completing the payroll in about 2 weeks. The budget is based on 16,100 ADA. The chart you have there in the middle of the page shows the projected ADA and the actual ADA for the last 3 school years. For last year, we budgeted 15,800. We actually had 16,334. For this year, again, being conservative, we just raised it to 16,100 because we don't want to put too many numbers and then be short because of charter schools or otherwise, and be short on money at the end of the year. So we did 16,100. Go to the next page. On page 3, the preliminary value that we got from the appraisal district in April are $2,178,220,000. It's an increase of about 5.8%, almost 6%, or about 120 million in values compared to the previous year. The certified values will be received at the end of July from the appraisal district, and at that time, we'll have to go at it again and do the calculations again. But based on what we have right now, it's listed like that. The calculations also reflect the homestead exception of $25,000, which was approved by the legislature in November 2015, of $25,000 as opposed to $15,000 as before. The budget is based on a tax rate of 113.97, which is all M&O rate, no INS. Current tax collections are budgeted at 92%. In the past, we did them only at 91%, but because we wanted to get a little bit more money, we could for facilities, as discussed before. We use a 92% instead of 91. We usually collect 93%, so we feel okay with the 92% collection in the budget. Delinquent tax collections is based on 20%, same as prior years. Workers' compensation, we're using $500,000 as a total amount to be contributed to the workers' comp fund, and it's $200,000 higher than the previous year. Athletic insurance, which is one of the higher insurances we pay, is we did a contract at the same rate as the previous year, so there's no increase there. It's our goal, it has been a goal of the administration for the last 3 years to increase the fund balance, designated fund balance by $500,000. We'd like to raise it to up to $20 million if possible. So we're looking at increasing $500,000 again to $17 million for the end of the 2015-16 fiscal year. Our health insurance premium contribution from the district will increase by $1,374,600 to cover all employees in the plan. As mentioned in several workshops and meetings before, we're going from $380 to $430 per employee. And this is needed because of the increases on medical costs that we discussed in previous meetings. Any questions on this page?
We just are short in time, so go ahead and
Okay,
we'll
I'll
kind of
make it
catch all
quick.
the questions at the end.
The next page, there's some, TA has some calculations on what's called unequalized tax collections. These are the tax collections that are used on the M&O side to generate what's called Tier 1 and Tier 2 funding, Any taxes collected above a certain limit are not used to trigger more state funds, but they are able to be used for IFA and EDA funding. And TA, the one that comes up with those numbers, we really don't know how to calculate them because in the past we tried them, we never got them right. So we waited till TA came up with the final numbers, and they generated an additional $4.6 million as shown in the table there. $3,472,000 for IFA and $1,149,000 for EDA. Total is $4.6 million. Because of these funds on the debt service fund, we do not have to transfer as much as we did last year. Last year we transferred $4.5 million, so this time we're just going to transfer $500,000. The $4 million we're saving in the transfer to the debt service, we're going to transfer to the construction fund for facilities. I'll discuss last meeting. We have a projected balance of $4,050,000 in the fund balance assigned for facilities or other needs. We also estimate that we'll have $4.5 million left as a surplus in the current budget, 2015-2016. This is subject already, including money for computers for next year, safety and security, and surveillance cameras. Altogether, for money for facilities, we think we'll have $12.5 million, including the amounts broken down in the $4 million, $4.5, and the $4,050,000 here. The budget is based on a conservative preliminary pay raises of $500 for teachers. It's a lot less than in the past. It's 1/3 of what we've done in the past. Only 1% for administrators and 3% for paraprofessionals and manual trades employees. The total calculated adjusted gross pay for those pay raises is slightly over $1.5 million. And we did it like that because of, again, need for facilities that we have. The school's budgets, well, we give the campuses an allocation based on the student, they have the ADA. And we give elementary schools $120 per ADA, middle schools $135, and high schools $200. Based on this amount, we will be making a contribution of about $92,000 more than they received last year because of increased ADA. And I have a couple of worksheets to show you in a couple of slides later. We don't think any other district in the valley does this type of allocation for their schools. For facilities in the construction fund, we've been carrying over almost $2 million of funds for projects that we need to do in the future. One is the Central Middle School All Gym. We have $1 million there, which we can use for facilities or something else. That's a decision the board can make. We have $540,000 allocated for restrooms at Lucky Stadium. We probably need more than that, but that's an amount we set aside since 2011, 2012. We have $415,000 for fire alarm upgrades. We should be using that this coming year. We're currently working on that finally. And that's almost $2 million for construction there. Plus, we have $12.5 million that I mentioned before. So that's the money that we have for facilities for next year so far. This slide 7 shows the amount that I was mentioning earlier based on the ADA for last year and the projection for this year and the amount the schools, high schools, middle schools, and the elementary get. And it's $95,910. I'm sorry, the high school didn't come out this because I printed this page as a copy. It didn't come out, but high schools are included. The bands also are included. They get an amount per members of the band, mariachi, or the choir. And the high schools get $450, and middle schools get $80. And they also get, based on the number they presented to us, it's $173,000 for high school and $124,000 for Weslaco ISD High School. ADA, this is basically what we done before. Last year was $15,800 budgeted, actual $16,334. We budgeted $16,100 for this year. Enrollment for this year, we're projecting 18,300 enrollment at peak enrollment. And the tax rate being the same for the last 7 years, 113.97. Any questions on that?
Andres,
Yes, sir.
on the budget for campus allocation,
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming that when it's in parentheses, they're receiving less than what they received last year?
No,
or-
they will not get cut. They will get the same as last year.
Oh, so what is the designation for the
Well,
parentheses?
they should have gotten less, but
Okay,
will not
but-
cut their
they're-
allocation.
so
We'll
they're
get the
gonna
same
rec-
as the previous year.
They're going to receive the same.
Yes.
And Are we in compliance with that amount for the restrooms at Lucky Stadium? Will we be in compliance?
Well, we'll need more than that for the restroom that we'll need to provide.
But
We have to
w-
meet with CD, with an architect to design them. But we
Okay.
that's the only amount we had at the time that we set aside. We haven't
Okay.
increased it. But we probably need, I don't know.
Well, they'll let us
double,
know
triple
what,
that amount.
how much,
Coach Riojas, do you know offhand how many more restrooms that was for that amount? About 40?
Yes, sir. To answer your question, it was 51
Additional?
urinals, additional urinals on each side,
Each side?
yes, sir. That including lavatories and water closets, a total of 51 together on each side.
That's what we need, or is that what's in this amount?
That's what we need. This amount was done several years back,
11, 12 was the last time that we allocated an
right?
amount.
And this amount was for the construction of just some pretty basic pods, cinder block pods. And I don't think we're able to fit the 51 urinals because the space is also a problem.
Coach, are you aware of how many we have already maybe in the, where our boys dress out?
I don't have the figures in front of me, sir, but I do have all those figures in my files, and I can
I think the
certainly
money
give you guys an
that's
update.
there is for the public restrooms.
Right,
It's a
there's
public
for the
restroom.
public
Only for the
restrooms.
public.
Right.
Well, what I was
How-
thinking was we utilize the ones that are already there.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we had discussions about getting with the city, which we never have, on getting a variance. I believe that the city is asking for those amounts of restrooms and toilets being based on a commercial venue that at times would possibly sell alcohol, which we will never sell alcohol on the
No.
football stadium.
Right.
And if, for those of us have been to a professional football or basketball game, come halftime, you get a big rush. We don't have the big rush, and I think we even had a study at one point, and just to see, are we really under on our toilets? And there was never really a line or a waiting at our facilities as they are right now.
Right.
So I think if we are gonna start addressing this again, we need to get with the city and see
update.
if we can get a variance on those requirements.
And I also have some ideas that I could share with Dr. Leo and Mr. Sanchez on
Well, I think
ways
if
where
you
we
were to
can come.
utilize what we currently have on both sides.
Yes, sir.
And put our teams in maybe a better facility that would fit the teams, because I know only part of the team, and at least when I was still on staff, half of the team can be in, the other half is waiting outside. So maybe utilizing what we currently already have there, transforming, maybe the showers to
Right.
urinals since plumbing's there, and maybe building a facility with kind of that money
Yeah.
and
'Cause
helping out our students.
Yeah, because I know, for example, I know Coach Tony's here right now, but during the football games, on home games, what we do is we have to help him out, and we'll take the defense and put them in the locker room, and the offense will be outside.
Yeah.
Because the
And
facility
again,
is little.
there's where my concern lies. So maybe we utilize currently what we have and put something that our whole team fits.
Mhm. That's,
uh,
sir.
For, obviously, both schools will get to utilize it, so.
Mhm.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Andres, our
Yes.
question here. On the proposed pay increase, you said $500 for teachers, and what was the percent for administrators and paraprofessionals last year? 2 and 5?
Last year was
Or
3. No, 2 and 3.
2
2
and
for
3?
administrators, 3 for paraprofessional, many trades.
Okay.
Andres, what did a 250 do for teachers, librarians, everybody else?
250. I have a number.
Do you have that number by any chance?
I don't have a 250, but I have a 300.
Okay, what's the
A
300?
300 is about 220,000 less.
From the 1.5 to 20 less?
Yes, and 300 for teachers, librarians, campus technology coordinators, yes.
What would a half percent of that point be for administrators? What would a half percent do for administrators?
It'll go down to by 83,000.
So that's almost 300,000, and we go 0.5%, $300, and leaving everybody else at 3%. That's 1.2. Are we still currently top 1 or 2 districts paying?
Pay, pretty much. We don't have any latest figures unless. We're still in the top.
Top 3, give or take, schools our size? Mr. De La Rosa, do we still offer just about one of the best packages for our employees? Yes, with our GPO. And then our student insurance is still the best, Coach? Okay, I know this is just a workshop, but Andres, I'd like to look at those figures with those other ones, that just have it on the side, making those adjustments
You
with
may
the
put on the
300.
update.
Please.
Well, and, yes, and have it
Okay.
ready for the next board meeting. Show it as an option.
Okay,
And what it would,
sure.
how it would impact the total overall expenditure
Okay.
schedule.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think I'm not a big fan of being aggressive with collection at 92%. I know that we probably hit that mark, but we're probably safer at 91, more
Yes.
conservative. I'd like to leave it at 91.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the extra $1 million are that we're looking at. It's about $1
No, not
million.
million bucks, no.
It's about $1 million?
No,
How much?
no, a couple of 100,000,
That's it?
yes.
Yeah, then I would rather stay at 91.
I'll give you better numbers. I'll put on the update with the 91%.
Okay, and then on the insurance premiums, how did we get that additional $50 rate?
It was a variety of factors, Mr. Fuentes. Number one, we looked around to see what other districts were funding that were comparable to our size. Number two, we met with our TPA, and they kind of gave us some numbers, and also met with Mr. Sanchez and his staff. So all in all, it was a figure that everybody could agree or live by. It wasn't as much as what the actuaries were saying to fund, but yet it was still comfortable enough where, we think we could, get by with it.
What did the actuaries recommend?
I don't have that in front of me, but I have it in my office. But it was a lot higher than 380. It was a lot higher than 430. It was more about like more of the 480, 495, 500 range, just for the losses that we're experiencing right now.
And why do you think then that it's only going to be 430?
That's what we're guesstimating right now. That's what we can afford. We kind of met it in the middle, if you will.
And what is that $50 impact? What was the total?
1.4 million, all employees.
Okay,
much?
so what happens
1.4
if
million.
what happens if it is closer to the actuarial rate?
Double, 2.8.
Well, of course, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, how are we going to find that 1.4 million?
Well, it'll probably come out of fund balance. But like I said, the actuaries will give you the worst case scenario, and it's always been the same. When we look at stop loss ratings and stop loss funding, they're recommending funding funding is always higher than what we actually fund. So we have good years and we have bad years, and that's just kind of the way the self-funded insurance market works.
Based on what you see on our hit list as far as the claims that we're experiencing, high dollar claims, catastrophic claims, cancer, I mean, do you see that the trend is going to change?
As of right now, it's difficult to tell, Mr. Fuentes.
But, okay, so an actuary uses a lot of statistics to
Yeah.
determine how they did, get to that rate. I'm a little reluctant on going that much further, where we're going to possibly expose ourselves to a $1.4 million hit at the end of the year if they actually are if they're correct.
We can certainly provide that at the next workshop, some detailed analysis.
And if not, maybe just check some rates in between, maybe just a little higher than what we're projecting right now at the $50 and maybe make it 60, 65. It'd be really hard to swallow $1.5 million
Mhm.
if they're right. And we know that's just a guess, but
Right.
it's probably a pretty good guess.
We can do that.
We can put on the update.
Thank you.
And Andres, you said how much do we have for facilities?
About $12.5 million.
12.5?
We'll have by the end of the year,
Okay.
12.5, yes.
Is that keeping any of the fund balance for any additional expenditures that we might have?
Nope.
It's not adding anything
We still have
additional?
the 17 million separate from that. This is just assigned specific for facilities or other needs. No extra, anything else. that's what we have left right now.
How do you, do we have any preliminary enrollment numbers?
Enrollment numbers,
I
yeah.
mean,
Do we have another workshop on this board, on the bond, on this budget?
yeah, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have a couple of more.
Because we're getting ready to run out of time on,
Oh, no, we gotta go. Andrew, you gotta go, right?
But we're looking about 18,300 at the peak enrollment, but
Okay.
not right now.
Unfortunately, because of time, we're gonna have to go ahead and stop this meeting. You can stay for a few minutes? Because we're gonna lose quorum, and we better just get some of this business done.
yeah. And this was a workshop, right?
Yeah, that was a workshop.
Okay.